Hey, what's going on, everybody? Justin here, and in this video, I just want to go over my nonfiction November reads that obviously want to read in November. I read a lot of nonfiction pretty much all year round, so November is really not that much different for me, to be honest. All things considered, and I'm not really participating in the nonfiction November readathon. But I just figured I'm going to do my nonfiction TBR, I guess, in this video, and I will be participating in probably my favorite readathon series that I've been participating in, which is the One Readathon to Rule Them All. I remember this being one of my really first big readathons that I participated in last year in 2018, and really enjoyed it. And I think that's towards the second half of the month of November, and obviously that's going to be a much more fantasy-based readathon. But like I said, I thought I'd do one video here for just my nonfiction picks. I was really pleased last month with my nonfiction reads. I felt like my history had been slacking off a little bit, and I ended up reading an ancient history, a Greek history, a Roman history, and a medieval history, which I thought was really cool. It's kind of hitting like the quadruple effect for history, I guess. For me, in this month, I kind of wanted to do something a little similar. Obviously, I also read a lot of kind of life sciences and things like that as well that I want to kind of include in the month. And the only one I didn't get to, just with the picks that I've selected as of right now, would be an ancient history selection. But yeah, let's just get on with some of the history ones, and I'll move on to some of the other topics. For Roman history, I have it's going to be actually a reread, which is fairly rare for me. But I really want to get back into reading these Oxford Very Short Introductions, and I thought this would be a good way to kind of get back into that sort of thing. And it's The Roman Republic by David Gwynne. And obviously, I can't say... actually, I take that back. I was going to say I can't say anything too high for the series. There are some flops. Not too many in the series, but I guess in a book series of like 600-700 titles with almost as many authors, you're bound to get some that are kind of a little bit subpar compared to the other ones. But I did read this one. I think I first read this one, I want to say, my senior year in college, and I really enjoyed it, just for it being like a tiny little book. The Roman Republic is definitely one of my favorite time periods in history, probably my top 3 or 4, because I got like a giant list of my favorite eras in history. But yeah, I just remember this covering quite well, not just kind of the military aspects, but kind of the whole, just kind of the changing nature of the Republic itself. And the SPQR, that's pretty sad. I can't. What Senatus Populus Q Romanus or whatever, of the whole Roman ideal, and kind of how it kind of evolved over the course of about 5 centuries of the last BCE millennium. Yeah, that's kind of an odd way to phrase it. But anyways, I remember enjoying the book, so I just thought this would be a good way to kind of ease back into the whole Oxford Very Short Introduction thing, and that's why I went with an introduction to the Roman Republic. Now, for a Greek one, I'm going with Ancient Greece, from Prehistoric Times to Hellenistic Times by Thomas R. Martin. This is actually a pretty famous introduction to Greece. I've had it for quite a while. I can't remember where I got it, to be honest, but I know it's a pretty famous introductory history of Greece. And what I think I'm going to do is, starting with some of my history books, I want to sort of read a bunch of sort of entry-level books, or introductory type books, or like a Greek 101 type of book, I guess you could say, and start doing maybe a series on those kind of books for different topics, say like ancient Greece, or the Hittites, or I don't know, like ancient warfare, I don't know, just different things like that, I guess. I think that'd be kind of something I would enjoy doing. So I think my first one is going to be kind of an introductory Greek type of video series or something, where I go over different introductory books for Greece, and this would be one of them, I believe. I've never read this book myself, but I have seen it fairly highly regarded by people I know and trust, so that's definitely a good thing. So I think that's why I'm going to go start with this one. And like I said, just kind of going forward, I know it's going to be a lot of information I already know already, but I'm kind of going to be, this time, kind of be looking for kind of the ease of access type of writing style, things like that, besides just the pure information as well. So I think that's kind of a fun thing to start doing, so I'm definitely looking forward to reading Ancient Greece by Thomas Martin. And then for kind of something like a medieval history book, it's not really a medieval history book per se, but it's a National Geographic book, which is also something I really like. Is From Mist and Stone: The History and Lore of the Celts and the Vikings. So yeah, I'm not really sure. This is by George Stone. I'm not really sure what I'm getting into with this one. I'm hoping it's not like completely kind of like a floofy book, but these Nat Geo books always have really, really good photographs. Obviously, this one's going to have a lot of photographs of like archaeological sites and reconstructions and different artifacts and stuff that have been dug up and everything. But yeah, just the Celts and Vikings are always just a really, I don't know, just a really interesting subject matter for me. I've read several books on the Vikings. I've read a couple books on the Celts. I know this isn't going to be like, you know, the gold standard of either of those topics, but like I said, I just really enjoy these Nat Geo books, and I'm hoping this one's just kind of like a fun, kind of medieval era type read for me. And then for one more kind of pure history book on a topic that I kind of neglected this year. I did really good last year, but kind of neglected this year, is on World War One. And for this month, I think I'm going to go with The Unsubstantial Heir: American Flyers in the First World War by Samuel Hines. I really don't know much about it, obviously, and then it's about basically the fighter pilots of World War One, particularly from America, which might be kind of interesting because I know a lot of volunteers went over before America joined the war. So in like 1915, 1916, for example, I know the France in particular had almost like the Foreign Legion of like flyers, essentially from other countries that volunteered to join the French cause against Imperial Germany. So I thought that was kind of interesting, and I think overall it's gonna have a lot to do with just sort of aerial warfare and just planes in general during World War One, not just like of the United States. So I think that'll be kind of interesting. I've never read a slant on just the aerial aspect of World War One, because it's usually kind of relegated and neglected in the sense that it didn't do a lot in a grand strategic sense, which really is true, but more for like kind of the psychological impact that it had on the combatants and kind of just the evolving nature of warfare and that sort of thing. Yeah, they were known as Knights of the Sky for a reason. So I think it might be kind of an interesting take on World War One, something different than I normally read on that topic. All right. And then for this book is probably more of like an anthropology book, and I wouldn't say skeptical. I'm always looking for a good anthropology book, just because I read a bunch that I've just been like either very meh or I just thought they were terrible. But this one looks pretty promising to me, anyways, and it's The Creative Spark: How Imagination Made Humans Exceptional by Augustin Fuentes. Like I said, this one is going to be more of an anthropology book based on sort of how during the evolution of like the hominids and Homo sapiens and stuff, I'm assuming it's like different inventions or different ways of thinking, or kind of like the brain structure. I don't know, stuff like that, I guess, and why those changes or alterations or whatever, or those kind of like leap forwards, like really help let Homo sapiens and the hominids kind of go on like their evolutionary trajectory and accomplish what we've basically been able to accomplish up to like the modern era. So like I said, this is definitely going to be more of an anthropology book, I'm assuming, more than a strict history type book. But like I said, this one does look rather promising. I just thought it was rather interesting. Plus, I did like the aesthetics of the cover, to be honest. I just like the kind of the napkin like arrowhead. Just thought it looked really cool. But like I said, I'm always willing to try a good looking anthropology book, and I'm always going to be looking for sort of one that is just definitely better than middle of the road, which I don't think, like, I think I read like 7 or 8 now, and nothing has ever really stood out. So hopefully this one fits the bill for a good anthropology book in my book. Alright, so now we have 2 more life science type books. The sciences are definitely, especially like nature and the environment, things like that, definitely really high up there on my reading priorities list. And this one's by an author I've read 2 other books by, and it's Cy Montgomery's Tamed and Untamed: Close Encounters of the Animal Kind. I've also read Soul of an Octopus and How to Be a Good Creature, a memoir in 13 Animals. I think Tamed and Untamed is going to be very similar to her memoir-ish type book, just based on kind of the subtitle. I think it might be maybe more of a fleshed out version of that, or maybe it's taken maybe a couple of those case studies and elaborating them a little bit more. I love Cy Montgomery's writing style. I plan on reading her entire bibliography over the course of the next couple of years. She's written a couple other really famous books Also, probably the most besides Soul of an Octopus, The Good Good Pig, about her pet pig that was kind of the local attraction in her hometown in New Hampshire. But anyways, like I said, this is going to be kind of about how our relationship with animals, I don't on a personal level, like I said in her memoir, it was literally personal encounters with 13 different animals all over the world and stuff, and like kind of like life lessons she took away from those encounters. And I'm expecting something very similar to this. And I always just think, in my personal life, and just like when I'm talking to people and stuff, I really think people can learn a lot, just from the natural world in general, but obviously like kind of animal life in particular. So definitely excited to read this book and see what it's all about. And I already know the writing style is going to be good just because of her other books. So definitely looking forward to Tamed and Untamed. And lastly, a book that I've already started and kind of flipped through a little bit is A Beginner's Guide to Recognizing Trees of the Northeast by Mark Nicholas. I've been really, I kind of went crazy in the month of October and like the end of September and bought a bunch of like reference type books for like identifying animals and plants and everything under the sun, just because I kind of want to get back into that. I did a little bit of that in college, and I just think this one would be, I thought it would be kind of interesting to use this one, as this is kind of like almost like a for dummies type book. Just really, really, like I said, I flipped through some of it already. It's very, I don't want to say it's very basic per se, but it's very user friendly for what it covers, which it's not as comprehensive as like like a full on field guide. Like I also bought at the same time as this one, I bought the Audubon Society Field Guide to Trees of the Eastern United States and stuff, and that's obviously a lot more comprehensive and stuff. But not as user friendly. So I thought kind of buying them in conjunction and just trying them out together might be kind of interesting. So yeah, I definitely plan on reading through this one and kind of taking a walk through the woods and seeing if I can't identify most of the trees I have in the forest behind my house that you've probably seen on some of my like nature walks and stuff. So I think that might be pretty interesting. Really looking forward to this one as well. So there you have it. Those are the 7 books that I hope I can get through in the first like 2/3 or something of the month of November for my nonfiction reads. Like I said, I got a good kind of assortment of history books out there, even an anthropology book, got some life science books. Tell me what your guys' favorite book out of these 7 would be if you had to pick like one of them to read. I'm always interested in seeing like what other people enjoy reading. And if you're participating in Nonfiction November, leave a comment down below, or if you have a video talking about that, leave a link to that down below as well, so I can definitely go check that out. I'm super big advocate for nonfiction, as you guys can probably tell just from this video, and if you've been following the channel at all, like I said, I probably read about 2/3 or more nonfiction to fiction. So like I said, I'm a big proponent for getting nonfiction out there, and definitely as long as nonfiction's getting love, I'm happy. So yeah, tell me what you guys think about these books. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. Definitely check out my Instagram, especially if you like nature stuff. I have a lot of things like that, I guess, on my Instagram. And always remember, whatever you're reading, whether it's fiction or nonfiction, read victoriously.